Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Ladies in Red. I'm Phoebe here with Sydney and Kristen, and we are really excited about this episode because we have a very special guest, and our topic is about athlete membership. So our guest is Leah O'Brien-Amico, and she is a highly accomplished athlete, author, broadcaster, softball clinician, and role model to women of all ages, athletes, non-athletes. So there's not much that she can't do, and we're really excited to talk to her a little later on. But additionally to that, we're going to be talking about some mentorship and just some cool things that athletes have come together to create.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be talking about some mentorship programs for young women athletes, and not necessarily even athletes, but just inspiring women and empowering them to participate more in sports. So the first foundation we're talking about is the SG United Foundation. SG stands for Strong Girl, and this is a nonprofit that has a mission to just empower girls to be strong, confident, and resilient, which goes back to kind of what we were talking about last week with body image and everything. Super important to instill that in young girls. And I think that sports can do that. They believe that like physical activity, mental skills, strong mentorship, and community just gives girls the tools to succeed in both sports and just everyday life.
And the title Strong Girls Female Athlete Mentorship, one of the programs under that is when each strong girl who is in elementary or middle school age, they're matched with another mentor. So they're one-on-one who participates in a women's collegiate or professional sport, and have virtual meetups focus on movement, mental skills, and mentorship, which just again brings back what we've talked about in the past about how important it is to have someone to look up to and kind of like motivate you to become an athlete at that level. And they also believe the key to success for female athletic participation is having good role models within the sports community. As we know, they definitely impact the level to which we want to strive to play at from a young age. And the mentors in charge receive leadership training and coaching support throughout, which just helps go to show that it's an important thing.
Yeah, this type of thing reminds me of something that I did. I think it was in high school, and you got like a kindergarten buddy. I don't know if you guys like had a similar program at your school, and where they would pair up, and it was just really cool because even as like that was obviously a non-athlete status, but you were paired up with a kindergartner, and you like met with them once a week, and like it was just to have someone in the school district for those kindergartners to look up to and like strive to be. And I always remember that was like really cool. Like I loved when they would literally like the kindergartners would come to the high school. So you'd see the little kindergartners walking down the hall. And I remember being the kindergartner as well. So it's really cool to have that like role model. And like you said, we talked about it in earlier podcasts, that it's just having that person that you can look up to that looks like you and is something you want to do. Just to have that visual makes that inspiration like that much more real and that much more seem like it's more attainable. So I think it's really cool, and it is a really cool program, definitely.
Yeah, I personally remember like the same thing, and I think like you said about kindergarten buddies, and I think being that young girl too, I remember like doing youth league field hockey and going to the high school field hockey games and thinking like these were like the coolest people like in the world. And I think that's so awesome that they have programs such as these where young girls can just be matched up directly with like a woman who plays a collegiate or professional sport, and they feel like all of these goals are attainable and that they can do it. I think it's just super important for their development as a whole.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like from my personal standpoint, I remember in my elementary school, doesn't have to do with sports, but we would have like reading buddies. So it would be someone from like your third or fourth grade would come down to like kindergarten, read to you. And then we also thought that was like really cool as well, because we were like, oh, like being read books to by like the big kids, like whatever. And then with like sports, I know when I was in high school, during softball season, we would have like a clinic where like whoever from my town wanted to come, and like we would kind of like run it and like give them instructions. They were always like so excited to see us. And that's actually what Leah did when she came to my town. I remember being really little, and my sister participated in it too. So it was like really cool for us to be taught by like an Olympian and just like have her literally right there in front of us teaching us. So that was really fun. But
Yeah, I remember like idolizing those girls, like those high school girls when I was playing field hockey at a young age, and I'm sure this like similar feeling that you had with Leah, that like they were just so cool, and then to be able to talk to them, and then when you became that person, you were like, wow, this is crazy. Like I'm now the person that these little girls are idolizing, and it's just like a cool thing to come full circle for that. And it's just I love to see this happening with the professional sports and the high level sports, because that's something that's really special that not a lot of people get to experience. So to have like a buddy or a partnership like this mentorship program, like that's just super cool for those little girls, young girls, to have that opportunity to have access to those women in sports.
Yeah, and I think going off of that, there are obviously all three of us have been recruited through collegiate sports and have gone through the stressful recruiting process. So I think that's just a great opportunity for mentorship as well. So there's also the Women Leaders in College Sports organization. It's a leadership organization that develops and connects women working in college sports and beyond. And just it offers educational programs, networking, resources for personal and professional development, and just connecting women in college is super important. And I think being a freshman, I could have really used something like that. Like before coming in, obviously you have all your teammates, but just having like a one-on-one strict mentor is super awesome. And it's a good opportunity to just learn more. And, I think there is value in hearing from someone like, if you were in my position right now, but you know everything, like what would you do? So I think that's super important in mentorship.
Yeah, and I think it's also important how like in that organization, like the mentors are paired with the mentees, like you mentioned, Sid, in the same industry, and like they obviously have similar interests. And then specifically to help young women formulate a plan to accomplish their goals, such as playing at the collegiate level. Because it is nice to hear from someone's perspective who is involved at the collegiate level playing, other than from like the coach, obviously, because it's just more personal, and it'll be more like not necessarily more honest, but you'll get more sides to the program or whatever, which I know we kind of have here at Dickinson with like the Hair Society, like Annie talked about like several episodes ago. And then also the Sister Devs program too.
Yeah, it's so beneficial to have a person that is a few years ahead of you in whatever you're trying to do. For them to give you that wisdom and that experience. Like there's no better person to tell you about it than someone that's lived right through it. And that's why all these mentorship programs are so beneficial and so cool to see them flourishing now, because like Sid said, like I wish I had someone when I was going through the process, that obviously once you got to school, you had those people. But I remember I was lucky enough to play on a club team, so I did have access to the girls that I had played with, and then they went on to college. So I was lucky that I got that opportunity, that I became really close. I know one of them was 2 years ahead of me, and she had like helped me through the process because she had just done it and got into school to play field hockey, and like that was just like one of the biggest factors of help for me. And like I said, I was lucky enough to have that access, but not everyone does have that. So at all of these levels, this leadership is the thing that you strive for in everything as well. Like when you're looking for a job, like I'm currently, you're always trying to find that person that has the inside scoop, that can tell you the ins and outs of it, that has lived through it and all of that, because that information is just so valuable. So it's definitely cool to see these programs, and like I can just imagine these completely taking off, because it is such an invaluable thing to have a relationship with someone who's just a few years ahead or has experienced what you want to experience.
Yeah, I think it's awesome what we said the Harris Society was doing with the Sister Devs program, because I think before, this is like very first of its kind at Dickinson. I think before we didn't really have a way to strengthen and connect the female athletic community at Dickinson. It was just kind of like, oh, here's the entire athletic community. And I think it's awesome to have females connected together through sports. And it's just overall a great opportunity, especially at a small school, because sometimes people, but you aren't really that close with them. And I think I personally joined the Sister Devs program, and I had talked to people who I hadn't ever talked to before. So I think that's super special, and just overall just connecting different sports teams too, because if you become friends with people from different sports teams, like that leads to like higher attendance at like other games like that don't usually get a lot of attendance or a lot of supporters. So I think that's also important.
Yeah, and just like you said, there are so many of us on campus that are athletes. Like it's nice to be able to branch out and have different options other than just like the upperclassmen on your own team to talk to about things like that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of creating relationships cross sports as well. Like it's just really beneficial to have a different perspective. And I believe that the Sister Devs program facilitates that as well, that you can kind of become close or at least develop a relationship with someone from another team as well. So that's a cool aspect that they add to it as well.
All right, so now it's time for our spoon sponsorship. Why cut your portions down when you're hungry? You want something that is filling and delicious. Well, Spoons Cafe believes in cutting the chemicals, not the portions. Located at 57 West Conference Street in downtown Carlisle, Spoons offers great sandwiches, salads, and soups that are tasty and good for you and will fill you right up. Stop cutting down the size of your lunch and instead get a delicious, filling lunch today at Spoons Cafe. Open 6 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Spoons is the perfect spot to enjoy a great tasting lunch today.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're here with our guest, Leah O'Brien-Amico, and her lifetime accomplishments are way too long to list. So they're all listed on her website, leah20.com. But just a few highlights for her. She was a 3-time softball All-American and national champion at the University of Arizona, a 3-time Olympic gold medalist, and she has her medals here to show us.
Yes, I do.
Yes, super cool.
I'm gonna drop this.
Yes, I bet they're really heavy.
They are, and if you wear them for a while, they're really heavy.
Yeah, yeah. A 4-time world champion in the sport she loves, and her career batting average at Arizona was over 400, which is insane considering the level at which she played in the conference in which she played in. And now she's a member of the USA Softball Hall of Fame and others, and is a broadcaster, most notably, as you know, with ESPN. And she conducts clinics for softball players throughout the US, which I went to when I was a tiny little kid. And yeah, in my hometown, I think that was almost like close to 20 years ago. And then actually had the chance to watch her play in the Olympic tour against the Stratford Breakettes, which I'm actually a member of now. And my dad wanted me to let you know that he says hi, and so does Tom Batarian. So
That's awesome. I love it. Tell them hi.
Yeah, and Leah often shares a vital message in that there was unity and diversity in how a group of 18 to 34-year-old Americans from various backgrounds came to research the pinnacle in the sport by capturing the first Olympic gold medal in softball. And she's extremely spiritual and uses her Christian upbringing to help inspire youth for the past 25 years. She speaks about the importance of giving and receiving support and focuses her life on giving back to the sport that has meant so much to her over the years. Her commitment to youth has special focus on those who may face challenges and how helping them to become self-empowered is so very important.
Yeah, she also posts blogs to her website. Some include Pivot, which talked about the pandemic and how it's been a really trying time for everyone and how we must appreciate the things that we have. Be flexible and better days are ahead. More of these blogs can be found on her website. So thank you again for joining us, Leah. And obviously we know that Leah is a great mentor.
I hope they would say that. I love working with just female athletes, encouraging them, inspiring them, really pouring into them, realizing the gifts and talents that they have.
Yeah, you're so well known as a top athlete in sports, but people who have achieved as much as you must have a wonderful network of supporters and mentors throughout their careers. Can you highlight a couple people that have been important in your lifetime successes?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, my parents. I'm so thankful that they saw that at a young age, when they got me involved in sports, they saw how drawn to it I was. They saw a talent in me that a lot of times I didn't see in myself. They believed in me. They pushed me. They encouraged me. And my mom especially. I think about the hard days, right? Because when we're winning, everybody's happy. But it's in those days that things get hard, and you might start to question yourself, or is it worth it? And that's where I would just turn, and my mom would always be there. She would be the one to comfort me and to just push me back out and say, "Go again. You have have this. You're good enough. And my coaches, I had probably my 14 under travel ball coaches. When I played for them, like they saw something in me that I didn't even know I had. And I would say that's when the fire in me began. I didn't grow up thinking, oh, I want to go to the Olympics, because softball wasn't in the Olympics. But when I won my first ever national championship at the age of 14, and I was the winning pitcher, something bigger was birthed in me. And that's when I had the dream to get a college scholarship and to be able to play at the next level, and, worked really hard in the classroom. And then at college, I would say my last my college coach, he also coached me in the 2004 Olympic Games before I retired, Coach Mike Candrea, truly like a second dad to me, just poured so much value into me and worth. And when I look down that line and I get a bat in my hand and I'm ready to, face even the world's best pitchers, I would look and he would just give me that nod, like, I believe in you. And that was all I needed to see. Like, I have his support. He believes in me, and I would just want to be that much better for him. And so, but I do have to say too, I mean, you talk about mentors, but also who we have beside us. Because if I did not have my softball sisters, if I did not have my teammates who had my back, like, I would have never been who I am today.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I've had one coach who, when I first started playing like tournament ball, he was one of my coaches when I was like 10. And then I like went to a different team, whatever. And then he actually became my high school coach, and we won the state championship my senior year. And we were kind of like the underdogs. Like, we weren't supposed to be there at all, but he kind of just like, I don't know, he just gave us such a positive attitude and was able to like push us to want to keep winning. And I remember every message before every game during the state tournament was like, oh, you guys have already made history as a school. You've made it this far. Like, just play to have fun. Like, yeah, it would be nice to win, but like, just go out there and have fun. And I think that really helped us along the way. And I still talk to him. I still hit with him, and he's someone who I can turn to and talk to about anything. So yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So the second question we have is about your accomplishments as both an individual and a member of so many successful teams. They're just crazy. Just to highlight a few, such as, again, being the 3-time Olympic gold medalist, 4 international play championships, 3-time NCAA championships at University of Arizona, and being a 3-time NCAA and NFCA All-American, as well as all your Hall of Fame honors. Our viewers can obviously go to your website to see your much longer list of accomplishments. But do any of those stand out as extremely special to you, or do you look at all of this as kind of like a lifetime of achievements?
It's so hard. There's so many special things, but I would say like my first national championship at Arizona, I was a freshman, and then actually was a designated player at that time. And so I only hit in those games during the World Series, and we got to the finals, and we were the underdogs. We were playing UCLA, and we were not expected to win. And I got the only hit in that game off of Lisa Fernandez, who I would go on to win 3 gold medals with, but really, truly probably the world's best softball player to play this game ever. And I got the only hit off her, but we had a runner on second who scored because she got on an air. And I'll just never forget that moment, because like I talked about that moment when I was 14, and that inspired me to want to be a collegiate softball player. And then we get to this World Series championship game, and I'm thinking, there's nothing better. The game's going to be on TV. My friends from home get to see me, and we win. And I got that hit, and here I was 18 years old, but that inspired me when a few months later they said softball is going to be in the Olympics for the first time in 3 years. And here I was 18, and I was like, that's my goal. I'm going to be on that team. And I think like it's those moments, too many times we allow the negative stuff to get in, and that's what we dwell on. But if we can grip and hold on to those moments that we think we did better than we thought we could, and if that's what we allowed to just pull us and push us, then I think that's the stuff that really breeds championship mindsets. And that for me was a huge, impact. And of course, winning all the 3 gold medals, those nothing compares to those moments of representing the United States of America and standing on that podium and having the national anthem played as the flag was raised. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, that must be such a cool feeling. I can only imagine that every athlete kind of looks up to that, and it just seems unimaginable. So it's super cool that you experienced that multiple times. And that part you did say about it is about winning, but it's not all about winning. That always had that drilled in my mind as an athlete growing up, just like that there is so much more to it than that final recognition, everything. Obviously that part is always fun and always great, but there is so much that builds up to get you to that one point.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think what you said about just mentors being there for you, whether even when you win or lose, is super important. And I think there's a lot of lessons that can be taught through sports about losing and not just winning. And I think that's awesome. And I think you're a great mentor to a lot of people by even just talking about like not necessarily winning, or not just talking about like being at the Olympics, but talking about small things like the national championship, which obviously is still super important. But I think it's just great to hear that from a mentor.
Yeah. And I remember just like being at the clinic in Reading and just like holding one of your medals. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, I want to be just like her. So yeah, it definitely impacts like kids at a really young age. And I think that was when I just started playing too. So
That's so awesome. And that's what I love, I think, is just knowing that I started out as this young girl who just kind of fell in love with the sport over time and really probably just love being around teammates. And I love the challenge of it. And I agree, like it is the hard times that really kind of, they challenge you the most, but you grow the most during the hard times. And so then it is those mentors, those coaches, those, parents, those, even older players eventually that you see like, okay, that's who I want to be like, that's who I want to learn from. And I think it's just so crucial to have positive influences in every one of those positions.
mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you clearly given so much to the sport of softball, both on and off the field. So we were wondering, out of all of your different accomplishments and contributions or everything, do you have a favorite one that you just kind of like look at it and you're like, yes, I'm like the most proud of that one thing?
I think one of the things that's kind of going to be a lump, but here's the thing that I really think kind of molded me and really opened a lot of opportunities for me was when I was a sophomore in college. My coach came up to me and he said, you know what, Leah, he said, we have too many pitchers on the team this year. We have 4 and it's too many to split time with everybody. So we actually need you to go to the outfield. And I really believe that was a make or break it moment for my career. Now, I still could have had a college career and been fine and gone on, and I could have loved every experience I had in softball. But I believe that's what now allowed me to kind of go to that next level, was how I took that news of, okay, we're taking you from the position you've always known your whole life, what you came here, what you thought you came here to do, and we're going to move you now. And so what I did is I kind of had to start back at the bottom. I'm like 19, I'm a college athlete. And now it's like, I got to learn this new position. So I'd say, coach, can you stay after with me? I need to learn to dive for these balls. So I can think of a couple moments of like, catching a home run that later that year over the fence at the Women's College World Series in a big game. And thinking nobody saw where I started. Nobody saw the mistakes that I made, or when I had to learn to throw like an outfielder because my arm would be hanging. So it's kind of like a general, I would say, that year, because that's what ended up opening up the door for me to be on the Olympic team as an outfielder. There wasn't room as a pitcher. I wasn't, that level as an Olympic pitcher, or that at that time a first baseman, even though I ended my career at first base for Team USA. So I really believe like that willingness to be coachable and to be moved and to say, coach, whatever you need, that's what I'm going to take. Because I could have just said no in my heart, in my mind, like I should be pitching, and could have just been mad the whole time. And I really believe I never would have ended up being the outfielder that I was, being an All-American, contributing that way, making the Olympic team.
Yeah, I can remember from like the early days of being recruited, just my coaches telling me over and over again, like, oh, because I was being recruited as an outfielder. And they just kept telling me, like, you have to be ready. Like, you might get to school and they might put you at a different position. Like, they might need you at a different spot. And so, like you mentioned before, like that being one of those big challenges, I think that definitely falls under that category. I'm sure Sid and Phoebe can relate to that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I went through the same thing coming in freshman year. I was always an attacker on the field hockey team. And then I switched to the midfield. And I think one super important thing about what you said was your coach approached you. And I think an important thing about mentors is just trusting them, trusting that they know how you are as a player, and that if they're asking you to do that, they clearly have faith in what your skills are and what you're going to do. And I think a lot of people are too prideful to switch positions because that's just like what they've grown up doing. But I think having an open mind and trusting your mentors is super important in success as a player.
Yeah, growing up, I was always taught, mostly by my dad, but to always be coachable, and that's going to get you far. That obviously it's important to have skills and talent and hard work, but also one of those key factors to get you to where you want to be is to be coachable, because like we've all kind of said, that it's not going to be any good if we're not fulfilling the needs of that team if we want to get to that next spot. It was a similar thing for me when I went to Dickinson. I was a defender literally my entire life, like deep defender, and I ended up playing mid and eventually even a little bit of more of a forward mid, which I never thought I would have been doing, but I saw my coach said I needed you in this position, so I said, all right, I'll try it, and then it happened, and obviously I learned to adapt and everything. So I think that's just like a really important characteristic to have. And yeah.
And then another question we have for you is, we all know you remain so active today as a regular keynote speaker, obviously conducting so many clinics for young females in softball, along with your broadcasting and analyst work at ESPN and Westwood Radio. So what's next for you overall? Like, what is your next goal?
Well, it's so interesting because COVID kind of changed everything, I think, for a lot of people. But for me, especially going out and being a keynote speaker and doing a lot of events, and those things pretty much came to a halt. I do have a couple clinics coming up in the end of the month, and a couple speaking engagements coming up. But I think there's still a lot up in the air. I was scheduled last year to call the games for Westwood One Radio and Westwood One Sports Online for the Olympic Games. And now that it's been switched, it's up in the air, but that is a possibility. I'm hoping that still happens. I've had an amazing experience every year, the last 9 years at the Women's College World Series, being able to call the finals with just a great announcers with Westwood One. And so I'm hoping that, as well as, potentially more speaking gigs. I'm hoping those, continue as things kind of hopefully open up more soon.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really. Go ahead, Chris.
No, it's fine. No, I was just gonna say, being on the Breakettes last summer, we were supposed to play the Olympic team, but obviously with COVID, that got pushed back like this summer. Yes, I'm really excited about that. Yeah, COVID has definitely changed a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I was just going to say that I just really look forward to just see, obviously I didn't really know much about you until Kristen brought you up, just because I'm in the field hockey world. I don't spend too much time. Kristen can attest to this. I literally learned the rules of softball last year when Kristen was one of my roommates and I would go to her games. So I'm not too well versed in that, but now after talking to you and stuff, I'm really excited to follow and see all the really cool things that you've done. I've just loved these past few days researching and looking at all the things you already have done. It's been really, really inspirational for me. Yeah.
Well, I just encourage you three as female athletes just to know that, like, obviously the life lessons you already know, you've learned so much, but it helps shape who we are. And to me, there's just something powerful about strong, competitive, powerful women who have learned through the ups and downs. I mean, sports will try us. They are hard. We go through changes, we go through struggles, but it really teaches us mindset and, and again, who do you have next to you? Who's going to help push you? Who are you going to turn to when you need them the most? And like you've talked about, all three of you, just the importance of the mentors in our lives. And that doesn't change. I mean, depending on what you go into, if you become a mom, find those best moms that you look up to, find the people of your business, a career woman, find those people who have done what you want to do. And just like we've done it in sports, it's amazing the lessons we learn from it.
Exactly. That is some awesome advice. Definitely will take that. Currently in the job search. So definitely utilizing that, trying to find mentors in that section as well. But if there's any one last thing that you want to leave with us as we wrap up, any one last tidbit of advice other than the great stuff you've already talked about, what would it be?
I think the biggest thing that I would tell everybody is to just, any opportunity that's afforded to you, just take it, go after it. Even if you think you're not qualified enough, you're not sure that you're capable. For me, like, I think just saying yes to opportunities that almost scared me, even with the TV stuff. I had my first experience. I didn't love it. And I thought I'm never doing it again. And then when they came calling again, my husband's like, Leah, you got to go at least one more time. And then if you don't love it and you want to never do it again, fine. And I learned so so much because the next time I went out, I had finally a little bit of experience, a tiny bit, but it was that much better the next time. And I still had a lot of growth, but I just don't try things only one time. I think that's what I would encourage people is don't, I'm very hard on myself. I can tend to beat myself up and say, forget it. I'm not good at it, but at least give yourself multiple tries and then decide what you want to do. Really anything, there's so many opportunities out there. Anything is possible. I never would have dreamt I'd be a 3-time Olympic gold medalist. And even now I've learned, I want to encourage others to go out and do things they never thought possible as well.
Yeah, definitely. I know us three are members of the Red Devil Sports Network here. And I remember when I did my first broadcasting game, I was kind of like thrown into it. It was a men's soccer game and I didn't really know like what to say necessarily. So I kind of just like stood there with the other guy I was with who was like kind of just took the reins kind of and just talked about the game himself. But yeah, I had the headphones on and I was listening to him and I was like, oh, I don't know if this is necessarily like something that I could be good at it. But then I did a couple games after that. I did a volleyball game with Phoebe and I started to really like it. So I'm starting to look at that as a potential career. So yeah, definitely doing things more than once. Yeah.
I like that advice a lot.
Yeah, I think in this podcast in the past couple episodes, we just talked about how sometimes it's the social norm for females to just hold back sometimes and like try to conform to gender norms and everything. And I think what you just said is brilliant about just like trying things again and just like taking every opportunity that you can and savoring every moment because they are so important. Like you said, you didn't know that you would be a 3-time Olympic gold medalist. You just went for it. And I think that's awesome to instill in young female athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we can't thank you enough for coming on. I think we all have gained quite some insight and I'm really excited for all of our listeners to hear about it as well. We appreciate you coming on and all of the wise words and cool experiences. So thank you.
Thank you all for having me on. I'm excited about what you all are doing. And I love seeing female athletes out there just doing what they love.
Yes, thank you so much. If you could just show your medals one more time for our viewers, it's super cool. Yes,
yeah, definitely so cool. Don't see that every day. That's awesome. Well, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, that wraps up this episode of Ladies in Red. We thank you all for tuning in and we look forward to seeing or talking to you next week.